Hello and welcome to my new series, Missable Macbeth Moments. Each episode we will focus in on a different quote and we'll talk about the significance that that quote holds for the rest of the play and for the meaning that Shakespeare was trying to achieve. Across this series I'll be choosing a range of what we think might be quite small moments, but when you've read the play as many times as I have, you really start to look at the small stuff and you start to think about actually those blink and you miss it moments are really important. We'll also be thinking about how these moments link to the wider themes and the wider concepts, and we'll make sure that we always try to make links to different scenes in the play, because that will really boost your AO1 marks. So let's kick things off by talking about what is a spur. So if you look at the pictures in the video, you'll see that it's a sharp part of a boot used by horse riders, and they kick it into the side of the horse, which causes them pain and therefore makes them run faster. You might have seen cowboys use these in old movies. So why am I talking about spurs? In Act 1, Scene 7, Macbeth says, "I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other." So what does this quote actually mean? If we zoom in on the red part, "I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent," he's saying here he doesn't really have any strong motivation to kill King Duncan. He has ambition, as he says in the next part, only vaulting ambition, but there's nothing pressing, there's nothing urgent making him want to do this. We can link this to some of the key themes of this text. For example, ambition. He is admitting he has a lot of ambition, but he's using personification here with the abstract nouns of intent and ambition. He's making it seem like he doesn't have control over his own actions, which we know is a very key part of this play. Another theme here is destiny, and if you'd like to do some extra research into this, you can Google terms such as determinism and predestination. These are the ideas that our lives are planned out for us and that we have no control over what happens to us. Shakespeare also employs the analogy or metaphor here of a race. He makes it sound as though there are two horses competing, then one jumps over the other and fails and causes them both to fall. Hold that idea in your minds for the next part of the video. So, Macbeth is saying he needs a spur. Who's going to come along and be that for him? He's already had the witches give the prophecies in Scene 3, but that's not enough. He needs one final push. Macbeth says these words during a monologue at the start of Act 1, Scene 7. Straight after these words, Lady Macbeth enters, persuading him to carry out the regicidal killing. In an essay, I would very much encourage you to comment on Shakespeare's purposeful, dramatic timing of these lines. He has planned it so that Lady Macbeth enters the very seconds after Macbeth says that he has no spur to prick the sides of his intent. Lady Macbeth is his spur, the final push he needs to commit the deed. And now, finally, for something really fascinating that I found on a reread recently of this play. In Act 1, Scene 6, the scene before he says, "I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent," it's the scene where Duncan arrives at the castle. And he says that he saw Macbeth riding ahead of them very, very quickly. He says, "His great love, sharp as his spur, hath helped him to his home before us." He's saying here that he thinks the reason that Macbeth was riding so quickly to get back to the castle was due to his love, aka Lady Macbeth. So we have another example of Lady Macbeth being suggested to be his metaphorical spur. Shakespeare's repetition of spur across these two scenes reinforces the idea that Macbeth needs motivation to commit the crime of killing Duncan. He wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for Lady Macbeth's persuasion, in Act 1, Scene 5 and Act 1, Scene 7.